Hi again, it's David from Fleet Fit. This is the second video that we've uploaded. This one's going to be another Facebook live recording of a wheel alignment discussion that I did. Hope you find it interesting. Again, if you've got any questions, just drop them in the comments below. Thanks. Enjoy. Hi everybody, it's David from Fleet Fit Loughborough. I just wanted to come on and have a little bit of a talk about wheel alignment and what it is and what it isn't, and help you learn a little bit more about it. The thing that's prompting me to have a little chat with you was I'm getting quite a lot of customers coming in asking for wheel alignment, and on further investigation I get told things like the car's pulling to one side and things like that. So we're going to talk about what wheel alignment is in basic terms to start with. It's the angle of the wheels in relation to each other and in relation to the body of the vehicle. There's three different measurements in wheel alignment. There's caster, camber and toe. We'll start with toe. If you imagine you're looking at your vehicle from above, toe is if your wheels are pointing in towards the centre line of the vehicle or out from the centre line of the vehicle, if you can imagine that. What tends to happen with toe is if the toe alignment isn't correct, you'll get wear on the inner edge or the outer edge of the tyre. Not necessarily both, you can just get one side that's worn. A lot of vehicles only have the toe adjustable. So when we're getting vehicles in that people are saying are pulling to one side, toe doesn't necessarily fix it, but I'll come to that later on. The next measurement we're going to look at is camber. With camber, if you imagine you're looking at the vehicle from the back, so you're looking along the line of the vehicle from the tailgate, that is the angle of the wheels vertically. Okay, so imagine that's your back wheels and they're tilting in or out this way. A lot of vehicles do have rear toe adjustments now, which is really good. Camber and toe on the rear can cause issues like understeer, oversteer if they're far out. And the camber on the rear does actually help with handling quite a lot. Really, it's to do with the surface of the tyre in contact with the road. If it's not right, let me just use my notepad to show you. So imagine the bottom of this notepad is the tyre. If the camber isn't right and you go into a corner, so most cars will have a little bit of camber like this. If you go into the corner and there's too much, only that corner will be touching the road. If we adjust it slightly and then the weight of the car pushes into the corner, it pushes the tyre down onto the road. So again, camber, that can cause pulling, but as I say, we'll come to the issues like pulling and things later on. The third angle we're going to look at is camber. Caster, sorry. We've already done camber. Caster, if you're looking at the vehicle from the side, so you imagine you're on the passenger side or the driver's side, it's the angle of the suspension strut. This is the simplest way I can think to describe it. If you're looking at the front wheel, for example, the strut won't be straight up and down this way. It'll have a very slight angle on it. Now that's the caster angle, and it will always be angled towards the front of the vehicle slightly on normal cars. Caster is responsible for making the vehicle go in a straight line and self-centering the steering wheel. So when you lock the steering wheel over and then you go forwards and let go of it, it goes back roughly to the centre. If caster isn't right, or it's got more positive caster on one side than the other, that can affect the self-centering, and it can also make it pull to one side. You can let go of the wheel sometimes and it'll actually turn the wheel itself and go off to one side. So that's the basic measurements. What wheel alignment is not. Okay, I've touched on this already. As I was saying, I get customers come in and say that their vehicle's pulling to one side for whatever reason, and they think that wheel alignment is some sort of miracle cure. It's not. It's good that people understand there's a problem with the vehicle and they're coming to get it looked at, and I can see the thought process behind thinking that it's the wheel alignment, but not necessarily. A lot of vehicles, particularly small things, Mazda 2s, Fiestas, Corsas, things like that, they don't have any camber adjustment on the front or back, and they don't have any rear toe adjustments. So we can't adjust any camber on it, and we can't adjust the rear toe. So if I just adjust the front toe on a, for example, I've got a Mazda 2, that won't really help it pulling. Okay, not unless it's miles and miles and miles out, but that would give you a lot of other issues as well. There's various issues that could be. If it's had a bump, there could be a bent suspension component or components. If you saw my live, the last live that I did, I showed you a bent track rod that I just took off a vehicle that day. That's the sort of thing that can cause camber to be misaligned and toe to be misaligned as well. Camber more commonly if the suspension strut is bent. If you've hit the wheel on a curb and it's bent, that'll knock it out. You might have uneven tyre pressures. Okay, so you might have 32 psi in one tyre, and you might have 14 in the other. That will cause your vehicle to pull to one side, or is quite likely to. If you've got an odd tyre, that can do the same. So if you've had one tyre put on for your MOT, and you've just done it on the cheap, and instead of changing a pair, which is understandable if you can't afford it, but that can cause pulling as well. I did once speak to a specialist Mercedes mechanic, and I advised him that he'd got odd tyres on. They were both Michelin tyres, but one was Primacy Sport 3, and one was a different pattern Michelin. And just the difference in the tread pattern of those tyres was making the vehicle pull. He'd brought his vehicle in for a wheel alignment, and the alignment was perfect. So that was his issue. He was a bit sceptical with me to start with, I'll admit, but when I managed to persuade him that it was the tyre, and we changed the tyre so it was the same as the other one, the vehicle drove perfect. He came back to me and said it drives 99% better than it did, which is always a good thing. As I mentioned earlier, the camber can cause pulling. Vehicles such as, just trying to think of what vehicles are adjustable on the front. None spring to mind right now. Some vehicles are adjustable all round. Our Mazda RX-8s, everything is adjustable on those, so that's a really nice vehicle to work on. If the camber was out on a Mazda RX-8, if we had the front wheels and one was doing this and the other one was vertical, of course the outer edge of this tyre would drag the vehicle to one side. Obviously, if we can adjust it and bring it back into line, then we can make it drive straight and the steering wheel will be straight. I've already mentioned about the odd tyres. Okay, the reasons you should check your wheel alignment regularly, you won't necessarily be able to see the abnormal tyre wear straight away, or you might not necessarily know there's an issue immediately. So normally I'd recommend whenever you change your tyres, check your wheel alignment. If you've had a bump, if you've bumped the curb, if the vehicle's been in an accident, definitely get the wheel alignment checked. As I say, the bent track rod that I removed from a vehicle the other day, the gentleman had popped his tyre on a curb, but it hit the curb so hard that it had bent the track rod. So if we hadn't have asked him if he wanted his alignment check-in, he would have quite happily just carried on driving with that bent track rod. So it's a good job that he let us do it. Where are we? Suspension components may not necessarily be bent, but they might have worn. There's a lot of rubber bushes in things like front suspension arms, rear trailing arms and things like that. Once they start to wear and age, the suspension sags. So imagine if these are my front wheels and they're perfectly aligned, as the rubber bushes start to sag, it can spread the wheels, and that will bring the alignment out of specification. As a little example of the sort of tyre wear you can expect if your vehicle is misaligned, if the toe is misaligned by 2 millimeters per wheel, not centimeters, 2 millimeters per wheel, it's the equivalent of dragging the tyre nearly 8.5 meters sideways for every mile that you do. So it's definitely worth getting that alignment checked. Whenever you change your tyres or whenever it's had a bump or an accident, if you don't do that many miles and you don't need the tyres changing that regular, I'd advise getting it checked once a year. It may be that it doesn't need adjusting, it may be spot on because you've not used it, it's not incurred any wear or anything like that, but it's always better to be safe than sorry. If you think of a common tyre, a 205 55 16, costs you anywhere between £45 to £65. It depends what brand it is. If you change a tyre, your alignment's out, and a few months down the line you have to come and buy another £65 tyre, that's a cost. You could have saved half that cost by having a tyre and the wheel alignment at the same time. So it's false economy not to do it, really. If you've got any questions, drop them in the comments below. I'm going to sign off now. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope it was interesting to you. As I say, if you've got any further questions, drop them in the comments and I'll try and answer them. If you'd like to book in to have your wheel alignment checked, it is free to check it. There's no cost there, and you can see all the measurements on the screen. I can show you all the measurements and explain what they are. I can tell you what is or is not adjustable on your vehicle, and we can have a look if you've got any potential issues. Thanks for listening. See you soon. Bye bye.